What's going on, guys? Andy here, and welcome to another video. If you're new here, I'm a full-time user experience engineer on a journey to create amazing characters and exciting worlds while sharing everything I learn along the way with you. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing my workflow and thought process when creating the initial character ideations, which will really help jumpstart our design process. We're going to be using the mind map that we put together as well as the visual guide as a foundation for our ideation. If you guys haven't already and want more context as to what those are and how we created them, do check out my playlist on character design tips. You won't regret it. That all being said, if you're ready to get started, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe so you don't miss future content, and let's dive right into it. The goal for us here is to create rough sketches or thumbnails for the ideas we came up with during our initial step of mind mapping. The key word here is rough. We don't want to spend too much time over detailing at this stage. The objective should be to communicate and convey enough detail so a viewer could understand the concept clearly and as immediately as possible. And of course, that means this sketch needs to touch on all the different defining pillars we have for our character concept. Now, I understand this could sound a little vague, so why don't I just show you some examples of what I consider to be strong character concepts to portray what's important and what should sit in the back of our minds as we journey into ideation. I think having that end goal in mind will help us work backwards. But before that, let me know down in the comments below what methods you use in your initial character ideations. Do you do rough sketches? Do you block in silhouettes? I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you on them. Alright, let's first take a look at a character design by TB Choi. I've taken a design that she has done and turned it into its basic silhouette. What can you gather just from looking at this silhouette? For me, I can imagine that this character is likely large, hulking, and strong. A little bit intimidating, probably. The indication of sharp claws and paw-like feet probably communicate that this character, likely isn't human. Bringing in the rendering, you can see that all the layers of the design help support these ideas and reinforce the preconceptions we had from just seeing the silhouette. This illustrates how important it is that our ideations and presentation have a strong silhouette, shape language, and design elements that clearly convey the pillars of our character. I think, practically speaking, this is a very functional character presentation as it is for a game character at the industry level, so showing that in-game view is critical and most likely requested. So if you're looking to create work for the entertainment industry, this would probably be something really great to consider. Not to mention in games that might be a little bit more fast-paced, the readability of the character is incredibly important. So that's what makes this silhouette and design very strong. But what if our character isn't for a game? Well, here are some other character silhouettes from movies and animated films and shows. Recognize a few of them? Maybe all of them? I think this also alludes to the other benefit of having a really strong silhouette for our design, and that's recognizability. We want the characters we create to stand out amongst the crowd, and to do that, the shape and the imprint they leave on the page need to, stand out. That being said, don't be afraid to exaggerate certain elements, mess around with proportions and angles, and have fun and make mistakes, because what comes of it may end up being something really special. Given these examples, I think we are now prepared for what our early ideations should serve to do. We want our sketch to provide enough clarity and information so that it is immediately understandable in the context of what the character is and their role in the world, as well as have a strong impression such that they are easily recognizable, and this can all be accomplished through a strong silhouette, as that is the first thing our brain registers when looking at an object. Once we have a strong silhouette, we can use what we know about design and visual hierarchy to bring in all the contextual elements to reinforce the shape and silhouette and create an awesome character. As we do this, we should also be keeping in mind the context in which our character will be used in. If it's a game setting, doing these sketches in the in-game view would be beneficial. If it's a personal project, it's entirely up to you, but in either case, for this step in the process, we are aiming to create a strong foundation for the rest of our exploration. So with that, let's go ahead, bring up our mind map, our references, and let's jump into ideating on our peacock knight. Because we want to focus our attention on creating characters with strong silhouette, the first method I typically take is one where I block in the silhouette first. So I'm going to be starting out with the concept where we have a knight that is actually a peacock under the armor. A lot of what I'm thinking about here is communicating the aspects that make this concept unique and full of flavor. So aspects such as the peacock's feathers and neck, its body shape, and the type of armor I envision this character to be wearing. Of course, I'm taking ideas and inspiration from the visual guide that we put together in the previous video in this series. What I like about this method of sketching is that it is relatively quick and easy. We're focusing mainly on shapes and their hierarchy. As you can see, I'm blocking in shapes very quickly, then erasing what is inside to quickly construct elements within the character or to create negative space. You can of course add other values in as you progress and have a more concrete idea of the direction you're going in, as you'll see me do towards the end. One thing to know and to keep in mind is that although we have an image in our mind for what the final outcome would look like in terms of fidelity and detail, at this stage in the process we want to stay relatively rough and loose, as we will be refining and cleaning up the sketches in a later stage, and our effort is probably better spent cleaning something near finished rather than kind of where we are now. Overall, I think in terms of silhouette, this character is clearly bird-like and has that warrior silhouette with the sword being part of the focus. In my refinement, however, I think I would try to make the body shape and the neck a bit more apparent in the silhouette. Moving on to the second idea we have for our character, I'm going to tackle the sci-fi based knight that is inspired by peacock motifs. I'm going to be starting with some gesture to try and start with that dynamic approach. What helps me do this is, of course, visualizing the character in motion rather than in a stationary stance. Once I'm happy with how the gesture flows, I go on to construct the anatomy and design the character off the mannequin. Even though I'm not blocking in shapes and working directly with a silhouette, I'm still keeping it in mind, and at certain points I will create a new layer behind the sketch to get a stronger sense of the silhouette and a clearer read of it. What I like about this method is that it feels much more natural to me, since this is how I might approach any type of sketch. If you perhaps have a more painterly background, you may prefer the first approach. That said, this method for me comes with a drawback, and that is the potential for overdoing it. I don't want to be zooming in too much and just getting into fine details quite yet, and sometimes when I sketch this tends to happen. So a tip is to try and stay zoomed out as much as possible. It will also help in increasing your speed. Looking over what I have, I feel like this design actually didn't quite hit the mark for sci-fi or futuristic. I think the silhouette is solid and can use some work in certain areas, but I think in future iterations I would have to work a little harder on the design itself to make it, really hit that aesthetic. Overall, I think it's enough for me to work with, so rather than trying to fix all the areas, I'm going to move on to the next idea so I don't get too fixated on this solution. Last but not least, let's jump into the third character by approaching it in a way that combines the first and second method. Here I will sketch out our knight riding a peacock with spears on its tail by first doing a gesture sketch. I do this to get a clear sense of the forms and how they overlap with one another. Once that is done, I fill the sketch in with values and adding onto the silhouette as I see fit. My approach to silhouettes may seem random, but internally I'm thinking a lot about making the unique aspects of my character stand out through size and isolation. If there's an aspect of the character that is truly compelling to you, for example, the spear tail, then my approach is to make that a clear focus by creating contrast in shape and size, value, and surrounding detail. I think overall with this approach, I feel like the character's pose is where I like it, but the peacock itself could be larger in size and be in a more dynamic angle. That being said though, for a rough pass to get the process rolling, I think this is a great place to start from, and it provides enough detail into the direction this character is going in. So here we have our 3 initial character sketches ready to go and explore even further. We have our peacock knight, our peacock inspired knight, and our knight that rides a peacock. 3 distinct approaches to our initial 2-word prompt, and now we have 3 unique starting points for us to begin our deeper exploration. Now I think I spent a total of about 2 hours working on these with some minor distractions here and there. Not really all that fast, but we are just getting started. Yes, there's more, plenty more that we have left to do. By now you may already have some new ideas and directions you want to take your character in after exploring these ideas. Or you may even have a strong preference towards one of these directions. Perhaps you want to try different ornaments or different variations on the pose. The next step in this character design process will be all of that, refinement and further exploration. I know a lot of you guys love this step because this is when we get to go deeper into design and get, obsessive over the dope clothing that our characters are going to rock. I love this aspect too, and I'm so excited to dive into more exploration in the next video in this series with all of you. Now, in summary, in this video we covered my 3 approaches to getting started with our character ideation. We touched on what our sketches should do for the viewer and how silhouette plays a critical role in all of this. I hope that in looking at how great artists do it and also seeing my process could help you get a clearer picture of what works for you and the workflow that might suit you best. This all being said, I hope this video was helpful and my approach to my initial ideations could help you in your journey towards creating compelling characters and a wonderful world full of them. If it was, do me a favor and let me know by hitting the like button and sharing this with a friend that might find this helpful. Speaking of friends, if you're looking for a community full of wholesome and inspiring artists also trying to create their own characters and worlds, come check out our Discord server, link in the description. With all that being said, I hope you guys have an incredible day, create amazing and fulfilling work, and like always, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.